Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from everywhere around the world. Today we are talking about how CloudHealth is helping organizations address FinOps scopes with Data Connect and custom data sets. Just a couple housekeeping items before we get going. First and foremost, please use the Q&A. We have the Q&A available for our experts. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please use that. If you are having issues with the webinar, or you have a very specific question to your organization, please use the chat. The chat is available to chat with the hosts and panelists, but use the Q&A for more generic questions. Today, Srushti, Jeevan, and Sanjna are going to be presenting on, like I said, custom data sets and Data Connect and how these two solutions work together to address FinOps scopes in organizations. We're going to be jumping in to start with what are scopes, going into what is Data Connect and some unit economics use cases. And then the majority of our time is going to be spent in demos. We do have some dedicated time for Q&A at the end of our webinar, but as I mentioned, please use that Q&A section throughout our webinar. With that being said, Sanjna, I believe you are kicking us off.
Good morning. We're really excited to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about scopes before we dive in to all the awesome things that these features can do. Scopes is something that the FinOps Foundation has put out there actually a couple of months ago. In 2025 is when we kind of released this new term. The goal of a scope is to basically define lanes. Not everyone is interested in all kinds of costs. Not everyone is interested in all of these domains that we have by the foundation. Some people may just be involved in, if you're a finance persona, you're just involved in forecasting, budgeting, chargeback maybe, and sometimes even procurement. So it is a fancy way of saying that not everyone cares about everything in FinOps. Sometimes there are lanes, and most people will want to just stick to that lane. And some of the scopes that have been proposed are AI, public cloud, SaaS, private cloud, licenses, and data center. This is where you would next go into personas, right? Like there's core personas, is allied personas. So FinOps practitioner may care about all of these, but a finance person may care about licenses more than engineering might. This is where scopes kind of comes in to assign lanes for core personas. Obviously, everyone can be interested in everything a little bit, but this is more what is their day job and what that entails. With I'm going to go to the next slide, TJ.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah. Thanks, Sanjna. Thanks, TJ. So let's look at the key problem areas which we would like to address and how Data Connect and Datasets solve these. So as Sanjna was referring to, we have different technology strategy elements, right? Or different technology categories, including public clouds like AWS, Azure, GCP, and then we have private cloud or data center. We have AI spend, we have SaaS spend. And that's where the first, problem area comes into picture, that it's not enough that you have visibility into your public cloud infrastructure, right? You need a comprehensive visibility into what it takes to serve all these technology categories or technology strategy elements, and what's my total cost of ownership, right? That's the first problem space. Second is subset of that, right? Since you have seen so many technology categories there, and one of them is definitely SaaS, right? How do we know true cost of running an application, right? If we take example of Databricks runs on a cluster. Obviously, you have visibility into infra cost, but what about DBUs, right? Databricks unit cost, which constitutes the software part of it. So to know what's the true cost of running the app, you need to have both of these worlds together, right? Infra cost plus software cost. Same applies for AI vendors, right? We have token usage cost versus the infra cost, underlying infra cost. So this is a kind of a subset to the first, total cost of ownership, and then true cost of running the SaaS applications. And the third being, when we talk about cost, we always discuss absolute costs, right? Certainly useful, but what we are missing is a context. We do not really know how do we interpret the either the increase or decrease in cost, right? Generally, we see increase in cost with the negative connotation, but we don't know with that spend if the underlying business is growing or not, whether the expected value is delivered or not. That's where unit cost or unit economics comes in, right? So, in a nutshell, TCO, total cost of ownership, true cost of running the SaaS applications, and then unit economics. Now, we'll see how do we solve these problem areas, right? Next slide, please. Yeah. So if you look at all these three problem spaces, one common aspect which emerges is that we need additional data to bring into CloudHealth platform to address any or all of these use cases, right? That's where Data Connect comes into picture to help us there. So we have two flavors here. One custom file upload, and the other is out of the box connectors. If you look at the first problem area, which is total cost of ownership, that's where you can use custom file upload, right? It's a very generic schema. There are no restrictions on what kind of fields or what kind of columns you can bring in, right? What kind of data it is, except for per file size specification, which is 100 MB. Otherwise, there is no restriction. Say to take an example, if you have an managed private cloud data, right? If you want to bring in that, just upload it through a into an S3 location or an Azure Blob location. Or if your upload is very infrequent, we have upload from local as well, right? If it's just once a month, you do not really have to automate it through, pushing the file to an S3 bucket. You can just upload it via upload from the local. So that helps you to get to solve the first use case to an extent that if there is anything which you would like to bring in into our platform and blend it with standard data sets we have, right? Like spend in AWS as your GCP, that's where you'll be able to visualize total cost of ownership. And we support both CSV as well as Parquet. Uh, if it is a very frequent uploads, you may have to build a small automation there to push the file into a storage location. And all we need is credentials, right, to that storage bucket. And we will infer the schema, right? And then we'll create a data set out of that. And in Flex reports, you'll be able to see that data set, then go on creating custom data sets, merge, join, and so on, right? For the second use case, where we talked about how do we find out true cost of running the SaaS application. That's where obviously you can use custom file upload to bring in any data, but we are building out of the box connectors to these standard industry standard applications because we can connect them through the means of API, and we can bring you the software part of it, right? The software cost. We have started with Databricks as the first connector. We will certainly be extending it to other industry standard SaaS applications like Snowflake, Datadog, as well as AI vendors such as Anthropic, OpenAI, and so on, right? So here, all we need is a few credentials, such as for Databricks, we just need to know the workspace and so on. We'll be able to connect and then bring you the DBU cost of it. So if it is very specific to Databricks, if it's AWS or GCP, we will connect and get the software cost into the platform. If it is Azure is a first party integration for Databricks. So in builds, we have most of the data present, right? So in a nutshell, so the first two use cases, TCO and SaaS, by bringing this data either through custom file upload or out of the box connectors, you'll be able to merge, join with our existing constructs like perspectives and data sets, right? And solve use cases uh, of the problem areas mentioned above for the first two. And for the third one, unit economics, let's spend a little more time on how can we operationalize this using Data Connect. Next slide, please. All right. So when we talk about unit economics, We generally use application as a construct, right? When we say unit economics ratio, numerator will have application cost and denominator will have the value driver. So value driver here will vary based on, I mean, application to application as well as based on nature of the application, right? If we take an example of, let's say, know your client application, KYC, what's the value driver for it? It could be, number of screenings done. If it's an e-commerce app, it would be maybe number of visitors, right? If it is a portfolio analytics, maybe number of API calls. So value driver could be, number of records published, API calls, and so on, would vary based on what kind of application it is. So in CloudHealth platform, we have modeled application cost, right, through perspectives. It is available for you. If you have using perspectives and if you have tagged your resources well, you have application cost modeled very well already in CloudHealth. What we need from you is the value driver, right? At an application level, if you can get us the value driver, through the data connect, which we just discussed, we'll be able to plot a unit economics ratio, right? And this need not have to be, constrained to application. We can extend it to any construct, such as, let's take an example of business unit, right? Each business unit will cost you or incur you cost, right? And how will you measure the success of those business units? Maybe through, let's say, customers served, right, by those business units. So we can create a ratio where you have cost of business unit to the value driver, which is number of customers served, right? And what we will do is we will plot a trend of this unit economics ratio over a period of time. And how do we identify, let's say, pathological applications or applications or business units which are not delivering intended value? We will take a quick look at one case study. Next slide, please. Yeah. So far in the platform, what we are reporting is absolute cost, right? Certainly very helpful, useful, and with Smart Summary, it gives you a lot of insights into what's happening month over the month, right? But if there is an increase in cost, it may go unnoticed. Even if you notice, right, you do not have a context of whether this cost increase is justified or not, right? Usually, as I was referring to, increase in cost is always looked at with the negative connotation generally. But if the underlying business is also growing, right, this doesn't have to be, right? And that's where unit economics ratio comes in. And if we look at the trend of unit economics ratio instead of absolute cost, that's where we will be able to figure out whether an application is delivering or a business unit is delivering the intended value or not. So, which we will look at next slide. So this is a plot of a, general cost history. Whereas when we plot unit economics ratio, so you have cost in the numerator, value driver in the denominator, right? If cost goes up and the corresponding value driver is also going up, the ratio will remain stable, right? Which is a good sign of a, good business. So if this line is stable over months or over days, you're doing pretty well, right? Because even when there is increase in cost, which is numerator, that application or that business unit or that project is delivering the intended value. Where you have to be very alert is if you see a peak in this trend, which is indicative of the numerator has gone up, but the denominator has not. Some ASU would have fired some additional resources, right? But it has not resulted in, let's say, increase in number of users visited or number of screenings done or number of API calls, right? It is the additional spend has not doesn't have a commensurate value delivered. So that's where the action needs to be, and that's how unit cost helps, right? And how do we operationalize this? Leveraging data connectors. Next slide. So in three simple steps, right? First, we identify. You need to identify value drivers for each application. Let's say you have, as I was saying, if you have a know your client application, the reasonable value driver could be number of screenings done per month. So we need this data into the platform. We have a template documented, so you can get us the value drivers at an application level. So numerator monthly cost of KYC app, it's already modeled in our platform using perspectives. We can do a simple computations in Flex reports, right? Compute an UE ratio and plot it. So you can keep um, watch at this, report which shows a trend of UV ratio which is varying. And if you observe, a peak, right, that's when you would have to act. Your app teams need to look into either optimize or re-architect that application, or business units heads need to look into why, additional resources spend has occurred where which has not delivered a business value. So this is how Data Connect helps us in operationalizing unit economics.
Stop
Over
the
to you,
share.
Srushti.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeevan. So I'll be sharing my screen and we'll see how to actually get this data into CloudHealth platform using Data Connect. So as you can see right now, we are on the landing screen of Data Connect. Here you can see your past connections and their statuses if the collection was successful or skipped if no new data was there. Getting into the add new connection, as Jeevan was saying, we have a generic file upload where you can have any kind of data, and then there is a out of box connector for Databricks where you don't need to take that data out of Databricks. We are going to do it for you. For example, AWS GCP is where we need credentials to the Databricks account but for Azure, because it is tightly coupled, we get it from the Azure bill itself. So what we would need from you, let's call it, yeah, it's. So what we would need from you is the account ID, workspace URL, and we have documented steps on how to get this data and how to give enough permissions so that we can read the usage data from Databricks. Once it is available, you can play with it in Flex reports. For example, here I have selected the AWS Databricks usage, which has directly come from the Databricks platform. And you can create a chart or report based on it. The second use case was of creating a connection using custom file upload, where you can have the data either in AWS S3 or Azure Blob, or the third one where we make it much easier. You don't need to give any permissions, etc. And you can just browse it and upload it from your own laptop. We'll look at the S3 use case here. For example, you may have a data for monthly budget data set where every month you upload a data for each team, each project, how much they can spend, and it can have metadata as well, like cost center and business unit. And for each account and each month, you end up adding newer versions like updated budget, for example, and you would want this in CloudHealth so that you can compare it with the actual spend that the team has done, the project has done. So we need this into CloudHealth. How we get it is, maybe I will call this monthly budget data set. And these are the few information we are going to need from you, for example, basically to know that we can access your bucket because the data is going to reside in your bucket. So to be extra secure, we have an external ID as well, and we can name this CH access. Bucket is this, and region is US East 1. The bucket path, which is the where the data set should be, the data set files. And as you can see here, we have it under BYOD monthly budget. So I'm just gonna go and copy this from here so that every time our application knows where to get it from. What this step is going to do is it is going to actually go and check if we are able to access this path and is data there in the said path. Once we do that, we don't know what your data looks like. So you're going to have to give us a hint and you're going to have to upload a sample file here. We'll upload the existing one that we have. We will just go here and say, I'm going to have to copy the key. So what this does is this goes and reads the data and tries to find out what data type it belongs to and what category, like dimensions and measures, which are very common in reporting frameworks. So if you feel something is wrong, you can change it here. If something should be a dimension but is a measure. But if everything looks good, you can go ahead and save it. What this is going to do is this is going to make our platform get the data from this path regularly, frequently, and once you upload it here, you're going to see it in our platform. But if you're impatient like me, you can actually just trigger connect collection from here. And what this is going to do is it is going to queue up the connect collection right away. And once it is read from this and put it into our platform, it is going to be available in Flex Report. Because it is queued, it might take some time. As you can see now, it is in progress. But this is how you can get data into our platform. Once you get the data, you can get pretty creative with it. And for that, I'll hand it over to Sanjna.
Thank you, Srushti. That was a really good demo, right? And I think we're starting to see how versatile these set of features can be. The most important thing to kind of note here is this is almost a way of, rather than saying bring your own business, this is almost a way of saying bring your own data. This is almost a way of saying bring your own business. So we've seen this feature's been around for a couple of months now, kind of in beta. Now we've GA'd. Something that it's been really exciting to see is all the wonderful ways that I've seen customers actually use this. People bring in revenue data, people bring in headcount data. I've seen people bring in multi-cloud data as well. And so it's really exciting and interesting to see the kind of use cases we're able to solve when we empower users with something like this. There's very few out there in the industry in the market who can do something like this, but no one provides quite the flexibility that we do. And so you can almost think of it as this is the world's your oyster, right? Like you can get as creative as you want with this. As long as you have the data, we will make it work. Software takes as long as it should take to develop, right? Like, so, but you are never held back by it. We have given you all the tools, and we're here to help, right? If you have an idea, if you have the data for it, it's almost overnight that you can have a solution. So it's really, really exciting stuff. Let me pull up my account to continue. Awesome. So we have, so this would be your datasets page. It's on the left-hand nav here under reporting. If you click on create new dataset, we basically have three ways that you can proceed. You can curate a dataset. Curate is basically, as the image shows, something super large like the curve. You kind of make it, you curate that experience for the rest of your team and your company. Most of you here are FinOps experts. You know your billing files inside and out, but no one else has to, right? Like no one else needs to invest the time and energy and years in these billing data sets like you do. So if your engineering managers might just want to know what their cost is, and now they're stuck having to understand if they use net unblended cost or unblended cost or blended cost, right? Like, so this should not be hard, at least in 2026. So we have curate data set where you take a larger data set, make it smaller, basically like you would create a report. But now you've created a data set and give it to people where they can then swap in and out of granularities. So this is when you would use a data set versus a report. Join data set. This is really cool because this is a workflow that you can go entirely via the UI. So click on this. I've kind of gone through a little bit of the process here to save time. Again, as the image shows, when you need to join two things in the hip, basically, and these wouldn't be extremely similar things, right? Like if you're doing something multi-cloud, join would not be the best way to do it. Something like a budget use case, which is exactly what I'm going to be demoing right now, join would be the perfect operation for that. And we've tried to guide you along the way as to what would make for the best joint data set and what would be a better merge use case. So I'm taking cost history and joining with budget. So I have my month, I have account, I have sure, let's say billing account. I have billing account here. No, I'm going to do business unit actually. That would be a perspective. Perspective. Yes. Business unit is called line of business here, and it is called business unit here. Okay. I need a cost. So I'm going to take budget in dollars, and I'm going to take, and this, if you see this, A basically gives me an idea that this is a dimension. This gives me an idea that it's a date time. And I'm going to take effective cost here. Okay, perfect. So I think I have all I need. Okay, so by default, we have all of the things that we've just selected here, right? If I feel like it and I want to change the shape of my data set a little more, I can maybe come in here and swap between which data set I want. This is really cool, right? And then I can see what I want to choose. All these options. If I want to just add that in, it will not be joined, but it would show up. Let me just say advertise. Okay, and the color difference is basically the data set that we chose here. So it's kind of delineating between the two data sets. I've chosen inner join as the type of join for this, but there are, I'm not going to swap in and out now, but like there's 3 other types of join. There's left, right, and full. If you 95% of the use cases will be inner join, but if you know that your data set and your use case requires left, right, and full, these are the 4 most popular kinds of data sets. So we hope with this you'll be able to do most things. If I want to add a filter, I can do that. Let me come in here and try and do that. Okay, so I only care about, actually, let's say I only care about finance for today. Actually, let me do engineering and finance, maybe even marketing. Okay, I'm going to apply changes. Okay. Oh, that's because I didn't name it. Budget. And I can set it to private or public viewership. So if this is something I'm working through, it is advised to keep it private just because people can create reports based off of your data sets. You don't want to create a daisy chain that will be bound to failure if you change something here, you're not entirely sure that you want to keep this and this is locked and loaded to go, you keep it private. Don't let anyone else create a report from it and create a dependency. Once you're ready to go, or at least you feel like you're ready to go, you would set it to public. It's very important with custom data sets to be able to write a description, just because you may use some words like budget, and obviously you will ping people around and say, hey, use this data set. But in a couple of months, when you've created maybe 15, 20 data sets, you don't really know which is the right one. You don't want to have budget -1, budget -find. Like that's not ideal, right? Like that is how we do things, but wouldn't be ideal. You would just write a description to say this has been the goal, this is created at this time, whatever else you want to help communicate, you can do that here. Okay, so next we have our next workflow is merge data sets. Okay, so I'm going to, okay, so good use case for merging, right, is either multi-cloud data sets or basically similar looking data sets. You don't want to take dissimilar items. You can't take a laptop, a table, and a phone and try to stack them one on top of the other, right? Like they're very different sizes, not ideal. You can take books, the same book ideally, and stack them one on top of the other. They will fit perfectly and stay stable. And that's exactly the use case we want to try to do here. With merge, you can see that they're stacked up like tall like pancakes. So we want to do similar looking pancakes. Let's do cost history. I have Azure cost history. Let's just say I'm trying to find out my cost for. Okay, so there's 2 types of merges. One is basically merge removes duplicates, and the way it does that is it only takes the first instance of a unique row. Merge all will basically keep all all instances in sort would not remove duplicates. And you can see that here, it keeps all of them. Time period, okay. And then I have account, this account. I have Azure account. So this basically, they don't have to be similar, right? Like they can be absolutely dissimilar, and that's the point. We want them to be dissimilar, and that's why they will stack up. I will take a cost. That would be effective cost. I will take effective cost here too. Fantastic. Apply changes. This is a demo, but I really hope it works. Okay, perfect. I think it worked. So I'm able to come in here and add filters. It doesn't matter if I've chosen that column or not, I'd be able to do it here. So I'm going to just add a perspective filter on line of business again. Let's say I want engineering, marketing, and finance for this as well. Okay, perfect. Apply changes. Perfect. Now I'd be able to see my data set here. This is really cool. It's one of the, I think the only person in the market who can give you a UI to do these complex operations. The last one we have is curate. And this is pretty much just like you would go about to create a report, right? Let me see if I can pull up something that I have. Okay. So I've written a pretty seemingly fancy query, which is trying to give me my AI cost, multi-cloud AI cost. So obviously we are building this in the platform, but I was able to solve this use case almost overnight. Have my colleagues or my fellow engineers kind of cross-check my work, peer review it, run it by the customer and say, hey, is this exactly what you would consider as AI cost? So I was able to work with them to curate this, and there you go, we have this. And this is ideally you would have waited for a point solution from a vendor like us, and when the process is going on, right, you can always make things like this on your own. You can do it yourself, you can come to us, but basically you'd be able to get a solution almost overnight. You can track now but your budget burn down, you can track your emission costs, you can bring in focus data sets, you can analyze your focus costs, you can analyze multi-cloud costs almost instantly. So you can do all of these things and then build reports off of them. So data sets, reports, dashboards, that workflow is so unique. You have your unit costs, you have basically anything you want. And in any way you want, right? You can give us control, you can just upload a file, or you can completely maintain control in your own S3 bucket. So we have all these ways for you to flexibly deal with your data. And we can't wait to see what more use cases and what more interesting ways this gets used.
I can quickly share a unit economics use case, which we discussed. Let me share. Yeah, as Srushti and Sanjna were demoing how powerful these capabilities are, right? And we looked at three problem space like total cost of ownership and even true cost of running the SaaS and unit economics. So we just want to go through how this can be brought into dashboard using both bringing the data through Data Connect as well as using data sets. So you can see how we have modeled true cost of operating Databricks SaaS, right? So it includes both, like you have infra cost as well as DBU costs. So since Databricks can be purchased through either AWS, Azure, or GCP, specifically if you have purchased from either AWS Marketplace or GCP Marketplace, you will not get this SaaS cost or DBU cost in the bills. So this is where the connector, which Srushti just showed us how to, by giving few credentials, you'll be able to connect to that connector. That connector gets you this SaaS cost, and in one single pane of glass, you'll be able to visualize both infra cost, which is coming from the AWS bills, as well as SaaS cost, which is coming from the connector, which we have created out of the box, right? And we intend to extend this to other standard SaaS applications as well, so that for majority of the industry standard SaaS applications, we should be able to have out of the box way, and rest of it will be able to, you'll be able to do it through custom file upload as well, right? If it's Azure Databricks, because it's a first party integration, you'll be able to get most of the data from the bills itself. But still, you'll be able to see that data set. We have curated that data set also, because Azure seems to be, since it's a first party integration, majority of our users are, have purchased Databricks through Azure, which is, you will still see a data set where the DBU costs are separated out so that you can look at SaaS cost distinctly and merge it, join with infra cost. And we have also modeled a unit economics use case. We discussed about application and value drivers, but as I was saying, you can extend this, or you can develop unit economics practice in your organization with any construct, right? Could be line of business, projects, right? Cost centers, and so on. So here we have modeled on your LOBs versus customer served. You might have multiple line of businesses, right? This is engineering, this is services, and this is finance, right? So we have line of business cost modeled in our platform. So if you go to perspectives, we have line of business perspectives, and each perspective group will represent one perspective group is engineering, one is services, and one is finance, right? What we will get into our platform through Data Connect is customer served. This is the data which we will not have. Only you, businesses, will know this, right? So if you can get us this data, right, in a template, which is already well documented, in front of every line of business, you need to give us customer served. It could be at any granularity, per month, per week, right? So once we have this data through the Data Connect, we will be able to plot this ratio, right? It's a simple math, right? We divide the cost, the perspective group level cost with the number of customers served which you have given us. So here, if you look at this, the UV ratio has remained stable, right, over these days. Why? Because it's not that cost has not increased. Cost might have increased, but this line of business, even if it has incurred more spend on this specific period, it has served more number of customers, right? It is commensurate. So the value which is the spend has gone up for this engineering BU, but it has served commensurately more number of customers. So the ratio will remain stable, right? So this is a good sign that you're doing well. If this goes downtrend, much better, because you're serving more customers and you have managed to keep your cogs in the downtrend, right? But where you need to be alert is if you see this peak, right? This is where the numerator has gone up, but the denominator has not, right? This is where it needs more attention, and each application teams or who are managing this line of business need to look into which resources contributed to this, which has not resulted into a commensurate increase in the value, right? That is what unit economics trend will spot, right? Which your cost history will not be able to, because cost history report would show you an increase in cost here. Uh, might be noticeable, might not be noticeable, but in either case, you will not have a justification or underlying, a rationale if that cost is, with the increase in spend, has delivered the intended value or not. So UV ratio will provide that. You will see these um, data set in Flex reports, right? As soon as you get us the file, it could be CSV or Parquet. In CSV, you would need a few columns for the template is defined, and this will become a data set. You'll be able to see this data set in Flex reports, right? And a simple math will give you, insights which you will not be able to achieve with absolute costs. So these are the two. So these two widgets in this dashboard will basically address the number two and number three problem areas which we highlighted. And total cost of ownership is in very much in same lines like true cost of application. So if you have any managed private cloud, or if you have anything which is not captured in CloudHealth platform, and if you would like to bring it and would like to look at it in a single unified view, it can be very well achieved by what Sanjna showed with, you can either use merge, join based on the nature of data, and you'll be able to see all the three, problem areas or use cases being addressed. I'll stop sharing.
I will share my screen. So we'll give it a couple seconds. If anyone wants to throw questions into chat, please do. Aside from that, please join our community, continue the discussion. We'll be sharing kind of best practices and everything there. And as we are wrapping up, I see no more additional questions, but join our CloudHealth community, use that QR code. You can hop in and continue the discussion. We'll keep best practices updated, including Flex reports, asset queries, some good data sets to use, and all the fun stuff. But first and foremost, thank you all for joining. Appreciate you dedicating some time on a Tuesday with us. Thanks, everyone.
Can't wait to see what you use this for. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.